For what purpose does the gentleman from Arkansas seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, I move to suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 42.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 42, a bill to amend the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act to exclude certain payments to aged, blind, or disabled Alaska Natives or descendants of Alaska Natives from being used to determine eligibility for certain programs and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Westerman, and the gentlewoman from Arizona, Ms. Ansari, will each control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Arkansas.
Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and to add extraneous material on H.R. 42, the bill now under consideration.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman is recognized.
H.R. 42 would exclude the amounts distributed or benefits provided from the Alaska Native Corporation or the ANC Settlement Trust to Alaska Natives who are blind, disabled, 65 years or older, or their descendants when determining eligibility for means-tested federal benefits. Federal means-tested benefits include programs such as Supplemental Security Income, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and federal housing benefits. In 1988, Congress amended the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, or ANCSA, to exclude the first $2,000 any Alaska Native individual receives from an ANC when determining eligibility for means-tested federal benefits. Additionally, the 1988 amendments authorized ANCs to establish settlement trusts to distribute benefits to Alaska Native beneficiaries. Yet, benefits from settlement trusts were not excluded when determining recipient eligibility for government assistance programs, as with the first $2,000 of other benefits Alaska Natives can receive from ANCs. ANCs have brought forward concerns with this discrepancy and the impact it has on Alaska Natives, particularly those who are aged, blind, or disabled. Often these individuals are placed in the position of choosing between accepting the settlement trust income or qualifying for government assistance programs. H.R. 42 would address this oversight and exclude the amounts or benefits distributed to aged, blind, or disabled Alaska Natives from settlement trusts when determining eligibility for means-tested federal benefits. I want to thank the sponsor of this legislation, our freshman member from Alaska, Mr. Begich, for his leadership in addressing this important issue and for introducing this bill on the first day of the 119th Congress so it could quickly be brought to the floor for consideration. I support the bill and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. The gentlewoman from Arizona is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of Representative Begich's H.R. 42, the Alaska Native Settlement Trust Eligibility Act. Congress passed the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act in 1971 to address land claims in the state of Alaska. Per an agreement, Alaska Native corporations were established and the federal government transferred to them 44 million acres and $962.5 million in compensation funds. However, when an individual receives a distribution from an Alaska Native Settlement Trust, part of this law requires that the federal government to include that distribution when determining the person's eligibility for various governmental programs, such as for housing and supplemental income and nutritional assistance. H.R. 42 would amend the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act to exclude from that calculation any such distributions provided to aged, blind, or disabled Alaska Natives. These are critical services that support the livelihoods of some of the most vulnerable Alaska Natives. Over the years, the failure to address this issue has often forced Alaska Natives to choose between receiving the settlement trust benefits they are entitled to or qualifying for need-based federal benefits. H.R. 42 would solve this problem, which is great news. I will remind my colleagues, though, that this bill, of course, doesn't remove the risk that this administration will try to illegally freeze or pause anyone's federal benefits. And this bill will be of small comfort if Republicans make good on their promises to cut need-based federal programs to pay for their billionaire tax breaks. These aren't hypotheticals. The House Republican Study Committee's budget proposal last fall called for cutting SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, by about 22%, for example. I urge my colleagues to support this bill, but I also urge them to oppose the lawlessness we've been seeing in the administration and to oppose cuts to programs that help the most vulnerable people in our communities. I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman reserves. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Alaska, the lead sponsor of the bill, Mr. Begich.
Gentleman from Arkansas is recognized for 3 minutes. Great. Alaska is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Speaker, I rise today in support of my bill, H.R. 42, the Alaska Native Settlement Trust Eligibility Act. This legislation makes a simple but necessary fix to federal law, ensuring that certain benefits distributed through Alaska Native Corporation Settlement Trusts do not unreasonably disqualify vulnerable Alaskans from receiving assistance. For decades, Alaska Native corporations have provided vital support to their shareholders, including through settlement trusts, an essential tool Congress authorized in 1988 to deliver benefits in a structured, perpetual way. However, due to an oversight in the law, payments from these trusts are counted as income when determining eligibility for federal programs like Supplemental Security Income, SNAP, and housing assistance. That means visually impaired and disabled Alaskan natives and elders are forced to make an impossible choice: accept the benefits from their settlement trusts or maintain their access to critical assistance. By ensuring that these benefits are not counted as income, H.R. 42 aligns settlement trust distributions with other Alaskan Native benefits already excluded from eligibility calculations. It upholds the original intent of the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act and protects the most vulnerable in need in our Alaska Native communities. I urge my colleagues to support this bipartisan, common-sense legislation. Let's ensure that no one has to choose between their critical assistance and their well-being. Thank you, and I yield back.
Madam Speaker, I have no further requests for time. I'm prepared to close and reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. The gentlewoman from Arizona is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I urge my colleagues to support the legislation, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman yields. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Madam Speaker, again, this legislation would ensure that amounts distributed or benefits provided from Alaska Native Corporation Settlement Trust to Alaska Natives who are blind, disabled, or elders age 65 and older or their descendants are excluded when determining eligibility for means-tested federal benefits. Again, I thank Mr. Begich for his work on an important issue for Alaska Natives. I urge adoption of the bill, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 42? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.